Okay, well, it's nice to have a chat with you. First and foremost, though, what are we calling you? Because there's a little bit of confusion. You've got so many different names.
So
What should we go with?
Well, I was trying to be more formal when I came to the club and was trying to drop the Stewart thing in, but my partners have done me absolutely no favors. I watch every video with Jason and Dara, and it's Randy this and Randy that. So you know what? We'll give it up. I try to be Stewart when it's formal, but now that we're all family, let's just call it Randy. How's that?
I'll call you Sir. I think that's probably the best way of doing things. So we're out in La Manga. It's been a wonderful few days, obviously getting to know the players and obviously seeing them at close quarters. How much have you enjoyed that experience?
You know what? I loved it this year. Last year, we'd been in the club 6 months. It's my first spring training. You don't know what to expect. And to be honest, the first year I think was pretty difficult with player relationships because a lot of the players from last year had that relationship with either Grant McCann or Dara coming in. And so we were still the new guys, even to the players, right? Even though we replaced 16 players, we were still the new guys. And so I've found it pretty much easier this year where actually they're the new guys and I'm starting, how's this? In business, I made a killing in pattern recognition. And so getting patterns over a couple of years is super important. And so I can see patterns this year or things that are out of sync from last year. So it's been way better for me.
Did you find it as time goes on, you're learning more and more about the relationship, but also B, the role that you have within the football club?
Yeah. Well, this is the first time in my business career that I'm not the lead. It's a different role for me. I'm actually okay with it. I'm enjoying it. I mean, we were very clear from the beginning. Dara is doing a great job with the football club, the business of football. He actually didn't really need us. We're better together because we can do more. And so finding that roles and responsibilities, we actually split it pretty easy right from the beginning, and it hasn't changed too much. I would say that, it's been better as I get to know more people. I hope people were a little surprised by how much of football and the names and the people we already knew. So that's actually been easier. So it's now the business side of who's running this club. Or I had a meeting with the EFL last week on digital rights and some things we want to do in media and broadcasting next year. So I'm starting to get those people, sort of behind the scenes people in the business. That's where my Rolodex is improving.
Yeah, and how much are you enjoying getting to know the fans as well? I know you met some of them out at the game on Saturday night who may or may not have had one or two drinks.
You know what? I'm a big fan of anybody from Peterborough who's got the bring your own bar. So they came in with three plastic bags and I was they allowed me access to the bar. Let's say it that way.
You were the intermediary, weren't
yes,
you? You were someone that sort of said, "Oh, you've got beer there. Let me see what we've got."
Yes, I think I even might have tossed one to Sir Barry Fry. So,
but it was good, isn't it? Because as you said, when you first came in, one of the main concerns you had was to ensure that the fan base knew a little bit more about you and obviously to get your personality across. And I think if you look back over the 12 months, you can definitely say you've done that.
I'll take that as a good. Thanks, Phil. You know what? Let's face it. There's a ton of foreign owners, and foreign ownership scares people, and it should. I've been really shocked at the caliber of ownership across the. You look at the 7 clubs last year that have gone through what they've gone through, and a lot of it is the ownership's fault. It's not the fault of the fans or even how the clubs are run. They're just not run as businesses. And I hope, I'm not going to pat my head or Jason's head and say, look at us, we've come in and done amazing things. I hope we just have given people confidence. We're here to run a business properly. We're here to support a guy who's doing a great job on the football side as well as running a business, and we're here to go to the next level, whatever that means. That's why we're here, and I hope people see that we've got some integrity around that.
Yeah, and if the first season was the bedding in process, you want a promotion now, don't you? You delight the chairman. You want to get into that championship as soon as possible. So
I'm a startup investor, and as a startup investor, you do investing in a tech and a founder, and you go, this is the one. It's going to the promised land. And then you invest in this other one, you go, well, let's just see how this goes, but I think the founder doesn't know what they're doing, and the tech's not that interesting. And without fail, that one fails, and this one takes off. So here I am in football. I've got zero expectations except plan for change.
Very well put, very diplomatically put.
Thank you.
In terms of the stadium, obviously a lot of people will be looking around this sort of time. I know that when we had the discussions previously about what was happening with the stadium, and we were sort of setting a date around about mid-July for a little bit more news. Obviously, you've been in constant dialogue with the council. Whereabouts are you in terms of the heads of terms and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and Jason's actually done a ton of work to get us to this point. I've been trying to steer where I'd like it to land, and then Jason's had to do the dirty work. And he'll tell you, actually, that's pretty standard for our business partnership, is I get the fun stuff and he gets the work. So we're in devil's in the details, to be honest. And actually, I have no problem saying that what's causing us the pain, I doubt we'll get to July 15th, but I think anybody who's ever dealt with governments recognizes that timelines for governments is different than timelines for private business. And we're having some struggles with just how the transfer of us becoming the landlord for the last part of the stadium, where you've got companies in there, you've got the Alia Business Center. So there's a whole lot of that there's some long-term leases in there that have to transfer over to, all of a sudden, the three of us are now landlords. And we'll hopefully get that cleaned up quick. But everything looks like, if we're down to that, we're not expecting any troubles.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it, to take into consideration, because sometimes if you're just buying a stadium, you probably just get that. But as you say, there's so many different intricacies that work within that ground that you have to make sure everything's right before it can be confirmed.
Well, and my goodness, there's okay, well, this strip of the parking lot, is that the city's? Is that the Devine's? Is that, who owns it? Or is that actually the business centers? So, you're down to this, redrawing, repurposing, and figuring out what actually you're selling and what you're picking up.
And of course, you're working in the short term for that, and also the long term vision of where you want to sort of take it from there. What's your thought process in terms of around the next stages? So
I've been going to a couple of stadium redevelopment conferences. I've been looking at other opportunities for new stadium conferences. Interesting, the school of thought right now, and this was even in London, so I think it's more North American, but even in London, the thought is a stadium either needs to be redeveloped or built new every 15 years. Now you think about that. If you own a house, imagine having to either redo it or sell it every 15 years. Well, a lot of people listening are going, well, that's exactly what I do. I buy a new house every 7 years. So that's where we're at. I think that's making sense. So we're doing budgeting plans. I mean, I guess the announcement, if there's any type of announcement today, I think we're down to two places. I think that's the exciting part. So we're either going to rebuild the old lady, or we're going to be along the riverside. That's what we've agreed with the city.
And of course, that sort of development and the sort of long-term vision of that there's so many processes you have to go through, and obviously the supporters are going to play a key voice in that.
Oh, 100%. We won't go out without talking to the supporters. That is my commitment. It was on 3 public things I've done with the supporters groups. It's things I've said when we have the season ticket holders. We won't do anything without talking to the supporters. I think, though, it's one of those things I have to decide with my partners whether we're going to go out and say, hey, here's the 2 ideas. Here's what Riverside would look like, and here's what the London Road would look like. And do you put the 2 beside each other, or do you basically say, hey, with London Road, here's the benefits and here's the consequences. We already know, as we've already said, there's asbestos in the building. We already know that London Road end is a little warped. It's probably needs a little bit of a refurb. Where do you go to the washroom? I know how much all of the fans love concessions in London Road. That's said with sarcasm in case that didn't come out in English. Whereas you do something new, you get rid of some of your traditions, but you can imagine a river walk and a tech park sorry, the flies are everywhere here in Spain, a tech park, or just some of the things, amenities that other places have done, like hotels and convention centers attached to their stadiums, and what that would do for concessions, etc. So there's a lot that you have with your history, but the cost will be super high to keep your history, or the cost can be lower and everybody's more comfortable, but you lose your history. that has to be put to the fans.
Just finally, some of the work you've already done in terms of fan zone, the stuff that's sort of making it a little bit more of an experience at the stadium. That's something you must be proud of as well, because obviously, years ago it was just a case of coming at 3 o'clock, watching the game, going home. But it's much more than that. And I guess from your experience being in Canada and also seeing games out in America as well, you know what can be done on a match day.
Yeah, and you can't. I travel a lot around the world, and every culture is different, and the nuances are so amazing, right? The Americans have what I call a joining. I get to talk about my cousins this way. I mean, Americans have a joining culture. You're either Democrat or Republican, you have a card, right? When you join a NFL team, you just buy in like it's religion, and it's like that here with your club. But the culture of getting to a game at 9 a.m. with the marching bands and the live bands and then watching the morning game, that's not here. So to say Jason and I are both season ticket holders for Seattle Seahawks, I totally know what that experience is like. I fly in on a Saturday night. I go for dinner. All the out-of-town fans are there. It travels all morning. You go to the game at 1 o'clock. We're not looking to do that here. We had to do something that's what's called strictly Peterborough, and we have to do something that's local, culturally relevant. And so if the culture isn't show up at noon and eat everywhere and drink everywhere and then go to a match, then we're not going to force that culture. But I agree with you. The fan zone was fun because we got good feedback. I wouldn't say we got a ton of uptake on it, but one of the things that Canadians should have known about England in winter is it rains. So one of the things we're really trying to commit for all of you this year is even if we can put a roof over the outside there and use that fan zone a little more often during November through February.